Okay, I'll tell you when. You ready? Are you ready? Okay, let me say my thing. Ladies and gentlemen, will the meeting please come to order? Very good. So will all members of the council as well as the public please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation this evening will be offered by Council Member Fabian Bedney.
Thank you. So yesterday I turned 59. It was my birthday. Thank you. I say that because nobody told me happy birthday, I think. So. All right. Oh. So anyway, I was thinking about something I studied when I was a little kid, like almost 50 years ago. And I was wondering, how do I still remember that? So it's from an old book, and it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ve'haaretz hayta tohu va'bohu, baruch Elohim v'rahefet al pnei hamayim. And that's Hebrew, and it's the beginning of a very old book. After I learned that, and I don't know why, I still remember, after I learned that, I learned it in Spanish, and it is, en el principio creó Dios los cielos y la tierra estaba desordenada y vacía, y las tinieblas estaban sobre la faz del abismo, y el Espíritu de Dios se movía sobre la faz de las aguas. So, when I came to the U.S., I learned this in English, and it is, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. I learned this in 3 different languages. People all over this world read and share these words in different languages, but are united by a common sense, most of us, a common sense of ideals and values. So we have more in common that will separate us, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know many of you know this already, but we, even though we don't speak the same language, we're on all this together. So thank you.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So y'all may be seated. If you will join me in thanking Adelaide, who actually helped bang in the gavel for the meeting today. I think she did a much better job than I did. So without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of the minutes, January 3rd, 2019? I've heard a motion and a second. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, Mr. Vice Mayor, there are no messages from the mayor.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have 2 presentations, but before we get to that, Council Member Pridemore.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And at a point of personal privilege, I'd just like to stand up and personally thank the members of the council for their during my medical absence, for the phone calls and emails and texts and wishing me well and great recovery. And I certainly appreciate that. But I also want to point out the special card that I received from members of the council that was initiated by Councilwoman Murphy, who proved to us that she's going to be invaluable during the budget process because she recycled a happy birthday card for get well soon card. So I want to congratulate her for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pridemore. We may have just found that $25 million that we're looking for. All right. 2 other things, and then I'm going to go to Councilmember Weiner. Obviously, I think you may have read that Councilmember Mary Carolyn Roberts' mother passed away. The services were today, so our thoughts and prayers go out to Mary Carolyn and her family. Councilmember Robert Swope has been in the hospital. He has been under the weather, and I want him to know that the council members are thinking of him today, and I hope he recovers very soon. Councilmember Weiner.
Thank you. I'd like to rise to take a point of personal privilege to introduce the Scouts, if y'all stand up, from Troop 55 at Christ Pres Church. We've got residents from Bellevue, Pegram, and Franklin with us tonight, and I'd like to welcome them. And let's meet the rest of the Bledsoe family, please. Adelaide's mother, father, and brother, Henry. Thank you.
So, Councilmember Weiner, just one question. It's my understanding that Adelaide has mentioned that she's interested in running for President of the United States. Is that correct?
And we'll fly her up there.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, so we have two presentations tonight. The first one, I'm going to call on Councilmember Potts, if you will go to the back.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If you'd like to join in honoring Representative Sherry Jones, please come on and join us, please. Wow, this is awesome. So in the past few days, I was really thinking about what I should say tonight. MLK Day is coming up pretty soon, and I saw a quote on a sign where I let my son off every morning, and it said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And I think this sums up what Sherry has accomplished as a state legislature over the past 20-something years. And she was a voice for children and families through her time at the Capitol. And I would like to thank her for her sacrifice, because as we all know, it's a sacrifice to run for office, take time away from our families and kids, and I'd like to thank her for that. So I got a resolution, RS 2019-1543, honoring Representative Sherry Jones. A resolution recognizing Representative Sherry Jones for many contributions to the city of Nashville and the state of Tennessee as a member of the Tennessee General Assembly. Whereas for over 20 years, Sherry Jones has represented a portion of Nashville and Davidson County in the Tennessee General Assembly House of Representatives as a representative for District 59. And whereas from the 99th through the 110th General Assemblies, Representative Jones has served her constituents honor and distinction, and
whereas Representative Jones was active in leadership roles within the House of Representatives, serving as the chair of the Davidson County delegation during the 100th and 101st General Assembly, and also as minority whip for the 108th General Assembly, and whereas she held leadership positions including chair of and vice chair of the House Children and Family Affairs Committee, chair of the House Domestic Relations Subcommittee, the House Consumer Affairs Subcommittee, and has also served as a member of such committees as the House Consumer and Employee Affairs Committee, the House Health and Human Services Committee, the House Local Government Committee, and the House Civil Justice Committee, and the House Employee Affairs Committee. Impressive.
Whereas Representative Jones has been a tireless advocate for children during the time in the General Assembly, sponsoring countless pieces of legislation about and for the children of Tennessee Department of Children's Services, volunteering her time as a court-appointed special advocate and serving as a founding member of the Advocates for Women's and Children's Equality, WAKE. And whereas she has also led the charge against domestic violence, serving as the chairman of the Domestic Violence State Coordinating Council, and as a board member and chair of the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. And whereas Representative Jones has been recognized by numerous nonprofit organizations and has been awarded such honors as the Legislator of the Year, Namesake Award for the Nashville Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and United Way Leadership Award, Vanderbilt Law School Leadership Award, Tennessee March of Dimes Leadership Award, and the Tennessee AFL-CIO Leadership Award, to name only a few, and
Whereas prior to her election, the Tennessee House of Representatives, Representative Jones served as a member of the Metro Council, this body, from 87 to 95, and as a member of the Metro Planning Commission from 91 to 94. Whereas the Metro Council hereby seeks to recognize Representative Sherry Jones for her service to the city of Nashville and the state of Tennessee through her service in the Tennessee General Assembly. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you so much. It was kind of overwhelming listening to what was going on with me. I've been busy the last little bit, but it was busy that I wanted to be and that I had a calling to be. My kids have only voted for me since they've been voting. And now my granddaughter, who has voted about 2 or 3 times and is with me here tonight, Bailey, has voted 2 or 3 times, and she's been able to vote for me. So I've been doing this for a long, long time, and the things that I have been able to do have made me very, very happy that I have been able to serve. I had a lot of things that I wanted to say, but after I listened to all this, I couldn't. I'm like, wait, what? And I've suddenly forgotten all of them. But when I first ran, I ran because I felt that I had something to give my community. I am a native Nashvilleian. I love Nashville. I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. And I love every bit of representing them that I have been able to do. The fact that I've been able to do some really important things for children has made me very, very proud. The fact that the Davidson County Coalition has named their award after me, the Domestic Violence Coalition, that has made me very, very proud. And I have been super glad that I have been able to do these things for so many people. Having left the General Assembly, which, oh, Lord, I pity this man, okay? And being home for a few months, I've also realized that I am not the kind of person who wants to get up and cook and clean the kitchen and do the laundry and then get up and cook and clean the kitchen and do the laundry over and over and over again. So my service to Nashville is not over, I hope, and I plan on running for the seat that Jason's leaving in the 30th District, because I can't stay at home and do the laundry anymore and fold it and put it away. I am so touched to be honored by all of y'all. I'm so touched that Jason did this for me. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank my family, who I never would have been able to do any of the things that I wanted to do without, and my close friends who are always there supporting me and helping me and moving me on. They always want to move me on to do something bigger and better. Thank you all so much for this. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Jason, and lots of luck in the State House.
Somebody? Do we have to do everything? Don't swipe for my picture. This sounds just swipe.
Mason had that planned out.
So thank you, council members. We have a second presentation tonight. I'm going to call on Council Member Allen, if she can find her way to the podium.
You want me to hold it? You want me to hold it, Berkeley?
Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Dr. Bill Paul to please join us here at the lectern.
Here. Good afternoon. I want to recognize you, and I want to thank Councilmember Allen for allowing me to participate in us recognizing you tonight, Dr. Paul. We appreciate all of your work. A resolution recognizing Dr. Bill Paul for his service to Nashville and Davidson County as the Director of Health. Whereas Dr. Bill Paul joined the Metro Public Health Department as Director in July 2007. And whereas Dr. Paul advanced the Health Department's role as community health strategist, leading and facilitating collaborative efforts to improve community health and health equity. And whereas under his guidance, the Metro Public Health Department advanced a healthier urban built environment by launching the B-Cycle bike program that now has over 36 B stations and over 275 bicycles available throughout the city. And
Sorry about that. Whereas Dr. Paul helped shape the Lentz Public Health Center on Charlotte Avenue as a showcase of healthy design, and also sponsored the publication of Shaping the Healthy City, the Nashville Plan, the product of 5 years of planning, research, design, and writing that explores the relationships between the built environment and public health. And whereas, in addition, Dr. Paul led a community mental health systems improvement work group that secured funding for crisis services to divert mentally ill people who are in a crisis into prompt treatment rather than jail. And whereas Dr. Paul effectively advocated to increase the number of school nurses serving Metro Nashville public school students. And
whereas, as a result of these beneficial public health initiatives and policies, Nashville has seen an improvement in the overall well-being of its residents and was named one of the 10 finalists for the 2018 Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Culture of Health Prize. And whereas, it is fitting and proper that the Metro Council recognize Dr. Bill Paul for his 11 years of dedicated service to the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County as Director of Health.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County that the Metro Council hereby goes on record as thanking and recognizing Dr. Paul for his many years of service to Nashville and Davidson County as Director of Health. And I'd like to present you a resolution signed by every member of the Metro Council. Thank you so much.
a what? A picture? Okay, picture's better than a speech, I'll say that.
So, Dr. Paul, you are, a picture is better than a speech, but you are recognized if you would like to say something.
I just want to say thank you. It's been a real honor and a privilege to serve the people of Nashville in this way, and I'm proud of the health department, the many talented and dedicated men and women who go to work every day to help make Nashville a healthier place. And we definitely at the health department appreciated the support from the council and the dedication and commitment of the council to making Nashville a healthier place as you go through all of the many decisions that you have to undertake. So best wishes, best of luck. Thank you for your support, and thanks for this honor. I appreciate it.
thank you for his service.
All right, we're going to proceed ahead. Are there any committee reports on matters other than legislation? Seeing none, we will then go on to a discussion about the proposed rule change. This is a proposed amendment to Rule 28 of the Rules of Procedure of the Metropolitan Clerk. Councilmember Lee, I'm going to come to you to explain what happened in the Rules Committee regarding that rule proposed change.
It was approved by the Rules Committee.
No, it was actually, it was deferred one meeting. I think there were still questions about that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
That's
had
okay.
to speak for something else, and you called me on this, so it kind of made me confused.
Sorry.
I had that pushed. Yes, sir.
So, so that proposed rule change will be discussed by
Yes.
the Rules Committee at the next meeting and then brought up on the next calendar.
Yes, and it was unanimous.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we are going to move on to elections and confirmations. I'm back to you, Councilmember Lee, Chair Lee, for a committee report on what you all did in the Rules Committee.
For the elections and confirmations, the Oversight Board, the mayor's nominees, we passed 7-0 the appointment of Mr. Robert E. Cooper, Jr. and Mrs. Phyllis Hendrick for the term expiring January 31st, 2020.
Do we have to go on the board, or we can?
And I would like to move.
So move approval for both Mr. Robert E. Cooper, Jr. and Mrs. Phyllis Hildreth, both for appointments on the Community Oversight Board. Again, these are the mayor's nominations. I've got a motion properly seconded. Any discussion on those two confirmations? And remember, these are the first two out of the 11 that the Metro Council has to elect. Has to be approved by a majority vote of the council. Seeing no other discussion, there's a motion for confirmation of both. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Those motions are adopted. So we have elected Mr. Robert E. Cooper, Jr. and Mrs. Phyllis Hildreth to the Community Oversight Board. Let me go on. Chair Lee, you've got one other one, Solid Waste Region Board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Mayor. This was withdrawn. This name was withdrawn.
So that one was drawn. So,
Yes, sir.
So we had two official confirmations. Again, if those individuals will stand as I call your name, these are both two appointments for the Community Oversight Board, mayor's nominees. Mr. Robert E. Cooper, Jr., if you will stand, and Mrs. Phyllis Hildreth, if you will stand. So on behalf of the entire Metro Council, we thank you for your willingness to serve, to volunteer your time and expertise. Thank you and welcome to the Community Oversight Board. All right, so now we will move on to our public comment period. This time is dedicated to allow members of the public who have registered in advance to speak upon matters related to the Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County community. It is my understanding that we have two individuals here to speak. These individuals will come to the podium. They will have 2 minutes each to speak. The first person that we have tonight is Richard Tippett. He is a member of District 24, Councilmember Kathleen Murphy's district, lives at 302 50th Avenue North. Mr. Tippett, you are recognized at the podium, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We are here tonight to deliver you an invoice for services performed by the employees of Nashville Metro Government. In July of 2017, this council passed a 3-year pay plan that included annual cost of living adjustments. This pay plan was largely seen as attempting to make up for sacrifices made by Metro employees throughout the recession. In fact, we accepted a lower cost of living adjustment of 2% in 2017 with the understanding that we would receive 3% in each of the next 2 years. Last year, because of a self-inflicted funding problem, this council decided it wasn't going to pay all of its bills. You paid every other bill, you even added more bills, but you didn't pay one of the most important. The men and women who keep the parks clean, keep our water running, keep the libraries open, repair our roads, pick up our trash, answer 911 calls, put out the fires, and keep our communities safe are owed a 3% cost of living adjustment for last year and a 3% adjustment for this year. The balance due is approximately $38 million in total. $18 million of that is past due. As you begin to discuss this year's budget, you should know this bill remains unpaid and your budgeting should start there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tippett.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to Ms. Teresa Wagner. Ms. Wagner is there. She is a member of District 28, Council Member Virtue's district, lives at 1105 Ransom Way. Ms. Wagner, you are recognized.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Teresa Wagner, and I teach at Apollo Middle School, and I'm also serving as the M&EA Vice President. On October 16th, I came before you asking you to begin the process of finding realistic revenue streams that will fully fund our public schools. I don't know if any of you have done that, but I do know that you have been asked to pass a bill that will provide a $15 million to subsidize Amazon's addition of a presence in our wonderful city. If the money for Amazon could be found, then money to pay those who are the backbone of the city should be just as easily identifiable. Because our schools are not fully funded, we're dealing with resource issues such as no textbooks, insufficient technology to handle their digital replacements, the rationing of basic supplies, and I wish I had $1 for every student who has asked me why they can't go on field trips because transportation costs have increased. Teachers continue to subsidize their classrooms even on reduced paychecks because of your prior inability to fully fund our school system. Other teachers are abandoning our district because they simply cannot afford to continue to live here. One of the consequences of being in its city is that state funding through the BEP formula, which is based on a district's capacity to generate tax revenue, is cut. It's time for this council to begin looking at ways to use that capacity to fully fund our public schools through ongoing sustainable revenue. It's time to make our children at least as valuable as billionaire investors. Back to that Amazon deal. They're bringing thousands of new workers to our city, and those workers will be bringing their children with them. There's going to be an expectation of quality from the public school district where these children are to be educated. Will that public school system be a fully funded MNPS, or will they take their children and their tax dollars elsewhere? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so we will now move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda resolutions and resolutions that are not on the consent agenda. The following resolutions are on the consent agenda. What I'm going to do is now read all those resolution numbers. If there's anything that needs to come off the agenda, if you will let me know. So here are the resolutions on the consent agenda. Resolution RS 2019-1545, 2019-1546, 2019-1547, 1548, 1549, 1550, 1551, 1552, 1553, 1554, 1555, 1556, 1557, 1558, 1560, 1561, 1562, 1563, 1564, 1565, and 1566. Anything that needs to come off of that? Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to ask that everyone voting in the affirmative on consent for Resolution 2019-1564 honoring Senator Thelma Harper, we can all be listed as co-sponsors.
Okay, any objection to that? Seeing no objection, that will be recorded in the minutes. All right, Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention initially. Was that 1507 is on the, did you have it on a consent?
No, it is
Okay.
not. It's been bumped.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other items that need to come off of the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the captions, and then we will take committee reports. All right, Resolution RS 2019-1545 by Councilmember Vercher. This is a resolution authorizing the retroactive issuance of not to exceed $391,666,020 in interfund tax anticipation notes to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Resolution RS 2019-1546, also by Councilmember Vercher. Resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Advanced Plating, Inc. against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $71,375.27, that amount being paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Resolution RS 2019-1547 by Councilmember Vercher. Resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Margaret Futrell against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $18,000. That said amount being paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Resolution RS 2019-1548 by Councilmember Vercher. Resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Logan Harrison against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $7,746.30. Again, amount to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. RS 2019-1549 by Vercher, Gilmore, and Withers. Resolution approving the employment contract for the Chief Medical Director of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. RS 2019-1550 by Vercher and Gilmore. Resolution accepting a grant from the State of Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide public health activity to enhance the health and well-being of women, infants, and families by improving community resources and service delivery systems available to them. Resolution RS 2019-1551. Vercher and Gilmore. Resolution approving a grant for the Nashville Predators Foundation to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health's Animal Care and Control to help support reduced pet adoption fees to reduce overcrowding. Resolution RS 2019-1552, Vercher, Gilmore, and Bedney. Resolution approving Amendment 1 to a grant from the Tennessee Housing Development Agency to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Action Commission for low-income Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP, services targeted toward the elderly, disabled, veterans, and households with children under the age of 6 years. Resolution RS 2019-1553 by O'Connell, Vercher, and Syracuse. Resolution accepting a local Parks and Recreation Fund grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to develop Capitol View Park. Resolution RS 2019-1554 by Vercher and Syracuse. Resolution accepting a grant from the Friends of Warner Parks to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Parks and Recreation Department to provide partial funding for one employee salary. Resolution RS 2019-1555, Vercher and Syracuse. Resolution accepting a Youth Development Center grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance Administration to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Nashville Public Library to improve community adults, out-of-school time educators, family, and school staff, readiness to support positive child-youth development and cultivate safe environments in the lives of children and youth. Resolution RS 2019-1556 by Vercher and Freeman. Resolution accepting a Homeland Security grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Emergency Management to fund costs related to enhancing preventative capabilities for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and improvised explosive device detection and response. Resolution RS 2019-1557, Berkshire and Withers. Resolution approving a contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Azteca Systems LLC to provide the enterprise license agreement for CityWorks software. Resolution RS 2019-1558, Berkshire and O'Connell. Resolution extending the license and franchise of Nashville Gas Company for an additional period. Resolution 2019-1560, O'Connell and Bedney. Resolution authorizing Rev LLC DBA The Nash Collection to construct and install aerial encroachments at 212 Broadway. Resolution RS 2019-1561 by O'Connell and Bedney. Resolution authorizing DBAP LLC, doing business as Stock and Barrel, to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 901 Glee Street. Resolution RS 2019-1562, Syracuse, Van Reese, and others. A resolution honoring and recognizing the Metro Nashville Arts Commission, Metro Arts, upon the 40th anniversary of the agency's establishment. RS 2019-1563, Mendes and Rosenberg. Resolution encouraging transparency by the Health and Education Facilities Board of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee. Resolution RS 2019-1564 by Murphy, a resolution honoring the services of Senator Thelma Harper, the first African-American woman elected to Tennessee State Senate and the longest-serving female state senator. Resolution RS 2019-1565 by Glover, resolution recognizing TriStar Energy for their continued support of the Nashville community and its organizations, and Resolution RS 2019-1566, Van Reese, Withers, and others, a resolution proclaiming January 21st through 25th, 2019 as No Name Calling Week in Nashville and Davidson County schools. Believe that's got it. Anybody else, anything needs to be bumped? Seeing none, then I'm going to start taking committee reports. I'm going to go to Council Member Vercher, Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval for RS 2019-1545 through 1558, 11 for, 0 against.
Thank you, Council Member. Health and Hospitals, Council Member Gilmore.
Are we doing them as a group?
You can do it. You've got 1549, 50, 51, and 52. You got them all grouped together.
Yep. And I wanted to speak just quickly on 50 and 52, just a brief comment, but I'll go ahead and give you the report if I could.
Yeah, you're, go ahead and give me the report.
Yep.
These are all on the consent calendar, so we're not really supposed to speak on them.
Okay, well then I won't. That's
Okay.
fine. Resolution 1549, the Health, Hospitals, and Services Committee recommended for approval 4, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay.
1550, 5 for, 0 against, and 0 not voting, recommended for approval. 1551 was recommended for approval, 5 for, 0 against, and 0 not voting. 1552 was recommended for approval, 5 for, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, Parks and Library, Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Parks, Library, and Arts considered resolutions 2019-1553, 54, 55, and 62. We voted all in favor, 5 for, 0 against.
Thank you, Council Member. I've got Council Member Withers, Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Personnel Committee met this afternoon. We considered Resolution RS 2018-2019-1549 and recommended approval 3 for, 0 against. We considered Resolution RS 2019-1557, pardon me, and we recommended approval 4 for, 0 against. We had one of our members that joined us a little bit late but was able to join us thenceforth in the agenda. We considered Resolution RS 2019-1563, and we recommended approval 4 for, 0 against.
Thank you, Council Member. Planning and Zoning, Council Member Bedney.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The committee reviewed RS 2019-1531. I approved the amendment, but it voted to defer one meeting as amended. 1560 and 1561 were approved. The first one, 9-4-0 against, and the second one, 11-4-0 against. Thank you.
Councilmember Bedney, what was the first one that you said?
I need to see your ID. Sorry.
You need to see.
1531 was the first one meeting as amended.
All right, so that, I'm going to come back to that one after we get through that. By the way, happy belated birthday.
Finally.
Somebody said
Thank
that.
you, Vice
Okay, I
Mayor.
know. All right, Councilmember Freeman, Public Safety.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Safety looked at Resolution 2019-1556 and approved 4-0, none against.
All right, thank you. Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had RS 2019-1558, 11 in favor, 0 against. We had RS 2019-1560, 11 in favor, 0 against. We had RS 29-1561, 11 in favor, 0 against. And that was the committee report from Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I believe we're now down to rules. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Rules Committee approved Resolution RS 2019-1564, 6-0. Resolution RS 2019-1565, 5-0. Resolution RS 2019-1566, 6-0. And with all of the committee reports in, I would like to move approval of all of the following items that are left on the consent agenda.
All right, so I have a motion to approve all the resolutions on the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Got a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt those resolutions on the consent agenda. Okay, now we are back on the first item on the resolution calendar. This is substitute resolution RS 2018-1507 by Councilmember Pridemore. It has already been approved by the Budget and Finance Committee. It's a resolution requesting that the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County refrain from providing economic incentives to Amazon or to any other entity unless and until employees of the Metropolitan Government receive cost of living adjustments. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. If you would, I'd like to defer this to the March 5th meeting.
I'd like to defer to the March 5th meeting. Do I have a second? Okay, March 1st meeting. Okay, I've got a motion to defer to the March 1st meeting, and it's been seconded. Councilmember Glover on the deferral motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You know, I'm not really for deferring this because I think we need to go ahead and make a statement on the floor. We either support the cost of living adjustment or we don't. And if we don't, let's just go ahead and, instead of kicking the can down the road, when I originally filed this bill and then we adopted the substitute, it was brought back if we started taking additional money, looking at additional incentives, looking at additional money we were going to spend. We just got a past due bill, whether you agree with it or you disagree with it, we just got a past due bill. And based upon the vote we took here in 2017, they're exactly right. We gave our word at that point. So this is a non-binding resolution. It doesn't tie our hands. I don't want to support, and I'm not going to support, the deferral. If we decide to do it, I guess that's what we'll do. But how many times do we kick this can down the road? You know, when we tell people we're going to do something, let's do it. Let's just, and if we're not going to do it, let's understand the purpose of that. So I wish we would not defer this, vote it up or down, and let's let the employees know we either support it or we don't, because they're going to ask us to pass a bill tonight on second reading, and then on third reading at the next meeting to commit to $15+ million on an incentive package for one of the developers here in town that will directly influence the Amazon deal. This has to do with all incentives. So I don't think it hurts us to go ahead and send a message on a non-binding resolution to say that we support the employees and we as a body will do what our job is and what we're elected to do, and that's to pass a budget that handles the needs of the city. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If the sponsor can just speak to briefly the rationale behind the deferral. It was approved through Budget and Finance.
Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and I'll be glad to respond to my colleagues' questions. Initially, my request, or mine, actually it was an amendment to the original bill, but due to some changes that needed to be made, it was changed into a substitute at the, I think, December 5th meeting. Anyway, and when it became a substitute, it was entered as it is written, as the original bill was written, or a resolution was written by my colleague. No changes at all were done to that. Initially, it was only going to be an amendment to the original, but once it becomes a substitute, I would have liked to have the opportunity to, there's some housekeeping I'd like to have done to it, and still want to. That's one of the reasons. And some housekeeping changes, and also to address the fact that some of these, they keep mentioning the Amazon, and I agree with them. I am for raises for, I've been a proponent of raises for the Metro employees since the beginning. A lot of us have, and we voted for that, and a lot of us have, and actually there was legislation created by colleagues to encourage that, which failed. But during that process, during this process, getting back to this resolution, and Amazon, it's already been dictated or documented that the incentives aren't going to be paid out until 2020 to 2023. We better get a raise before, or they better get a raise before 2023. So I don't really think this is going to affect this, as my colleague says, this non-binding resolution shouldn't be, definitely better not be binding in 2023. So it really doesn't affect Amazon one way or another, whether it's binding or non-binding, because that's 2023. He won't be, my colleague will not be here under this capacity now, and nor will I. So I'm just trying to find some wording or something to put more teeth, and also continue to identify that employees are needing a raise, and that's my purpose for making the changes. Okay. Or asking for a deferral. I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Vercher, any other questions?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If the sponsor is going to defer due to housekeeping and some additional work on the legislation, I can support a deferral with a re-referral back to Budget and Finance if the sponsor will be okay to that friendly amendment.
Councilmember Pridemore, you okay with that?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. So the motion now in front of us is a question? Councilmember Glover, back to you.
I would just simply like to be, because I thought we were co-sponsoring this bill together. And so if we're going to start doing amendments and whatnot, I would like to be relisted on this bill, because it was my bill originally that was introduced here. So I want to step back into the conversation. Thank you.
All right. So Mr. Jamison, I think in addressing Councilmember Glover's question, he just needs to sign on to the bill. Okay? Okay. All right. So what we've got in front of us is this is a motion to defer to the first meeting in March with a re-referral back to the Budget and Finance Committee. Okay, everybody got that?
Yeah, I address Vice Mayor Schulman.
Sure, Councilmember Pridemore.
Mr. Jamison, in doing so as a co-sponsor to this, and when I meet with you to go over some changes to this resolution, we're going to have to, there'll be a party of three in some way, in one way or another, not at the same time, but during the process, correct?
I look forward to the three-way,
Thank
Councilman
you.
Pridemore.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none. So what we have in front of us is a motion to defer to the first meeting in March with a re-referral back to the Budget and Finance Committee. Seeing nobody else in the queue, all those in favor of the deferral say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, so the motion is adopted. This measure is deferred to the first meeting in March with a re-referral back to Budget and Finance. All right, the next item we have on the agenda is RS 2019-1531 by Councilmember Vercher. This was already approved with the conditions by the Planning Commission. It's a resolution declaring surplus and approving the disposition of certain parcels of real property in accordance with Section 2.24.050G of the Metropolitan Code of Laws. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval as amended, 11-4, 0 against. I'll need a committee report.
Committee report from Planning and Zoning. Councilmember Bedney, the man who had the birthday yesterday.
That's me.
Yeah.
Just 59.
No, you're 59 years and 1 day now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had a good conversation about the legislation, and an amendment was submitted and recommended for approval, 12-4-0 against. And then there was a request to defer one meeting, and that passed 12-4-0 against.
Okay. All right. Back to you, Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Procedurally, do you want me to go ahead and move the amendment?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get the amendment on the measure.
I'd like to move the amendment.
Okay, I have a motion on the amendment, properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Vercher, for explanation of the amendment.
I'll yield to Mr. Jameson. I believe it was just a housekeeping amendment.
That is correct. A housekeeping amendment offered by Council Lady Blaylock to add Ash Grove Drive that was intended to be added by the administration originally.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
Okay. So that's the explanation. Any questions regarding the amendment? All right. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is now on the bill. Back to you, Councilmember Vercher.
Vice Mayor, I don't need to suspend the rules on this one, do I, due to the committee's deferral?
She will need to
No, I think you just simply.
She'll want to suspend the rules. During the discussion at Planning and Zoning, Council Lady Murphy had concerns with respect to the back tax status. My understanding is that she's had subsequent discussions with Finance and has resolved her concerns, but procedurally, if you move to suspend the required deferral, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Vice Mayor, I'd like to suspend the rules so we can go ahead and vote on the legislation.
Oh, you want to go ahead and vote on the legislation tonight? Okay.
Yes.
Any objection with us suspending the rules so that we can proceed ahead? Seeing none, Councilmember Vercher, we're back to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I'd like to move for approval as amended.
Okay. So I got a motion to approve as amended, properly seconded. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, we are actually voting on Resolution 2019-1531 as amended. Seeing nobody in the queue, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That measure as amended is adopted. Thank you, Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right. All right, so we're now on Resolution RS 2019-1559 by O'Connell and Bedney. Resolution modifying the master list of architects and engineers originally approved by Resolution number RS 94-1050. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Public Works, I guess let's say I'll get committee reports, and then I'm happy to give my own.
You're the only one.
Yeah. So in committee, we were 10 in favor, 1 abstention, and we recommended approval.
All right, thank you. So you got a motion to approve?
Indeed. I would like to move to approve, and I think we will need to record the abstention in that vote as well.
All right, thank you. I've got a motion to approve, properly seconded. I'm going to go to Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. When I read the analysis on this, I was a little confused about it, so I'm looking for just a little bit more background information and explanation. So this list that we're currently operating under was passed last in, it looks like, 2012. And so does that mean like a new firm that is developed next week that's not on this list is not someone who could do business with Nashville?
Mr. Jameson.
They can petition to be the subject of a resolution at any time when it reaches a critical volume that usually we'll receive from the administration. You'll see this time it's adding 68. They generally don't try to do 1 or 2 at a time, but they can. And if there's a firm that is genuinely pursuing business but is not on the list, they can be the subject of a separate resolution and be passed in fairly short order.
Okay, I was just really, it was very surprising to me that we keep a list and that we don't just solicit bids or do business with whoever is in Nashville at the time and is accredited or a reputable business. I just didn't know you had to be on a, something strikes me odd that you have to be on a list that seems to be, let's see here, approved in 94 and then 2012. That seems very far apart. And with Nashville growing, and especially with like women and minority businesses coming up and being able to form, I hope that, I'm not sure which committee, I assume budget or someone, we need to discuss this a little bit more, or I'd like a little bit more information and history on the way we do this and why, because right now it just strikes me as very strange and not inclusive of everyone in Nashville. Thank you.
So, Councilmember Murphy, just checking. So you want more information, but you didn't ask for anything else? Okay. All right. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need to be recorded as abstaining.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bedney?
I own an architectural firm, and for us to do business with some agencies, we have to pre-register, and they keep a list of the firms in the city, and that way we get information about requests for proposals and that sort of thing. So just FYI to Councilor Lady Murphy, this is common practice for entities to keep a list of official architectural firms and engineering firms. I did check, my firm is not listed, so I don't have to abstain. So.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Bedney. Councilmember Elrod?
Please list me as abstaining, please, as well.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve. It has been properly seconded. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am not sure the motion that I want to make right now. I think it has just come to my attention subsequent to Public Works Committee that there's something of concern to me in this bill, specifically related to our Metro audit and some attention that has been on a particular contractor. So I apologize for being sort of late to the game on that, but I want to defer to my chair of Public Works and ask if he would be willing perhaps to defer this one meeting for further discussion.
Councilmember O'Connell?
I have no objection to that. I might look to Mr. Jamieson and the administration table just to confirm that there are no issues with timing related to the filing of this resolution.
I'm unaware of any time sensitivity, but I'll check with the administration.
Mr. Cooper?
In which case, I do not object to Vice Chair Henderson's consideration of a deferral.
All right, so is somebody going to move to defer one meeting?
I'll move to defer one meeting.
All right, so I've got a motion to defer one meeting properly seconded. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If I can offer, if the sponsors would be willing to defer and refer also to Budget and Finance also. I think the committee, we need to be part of this discussion as it relates to project basis spending as it relates to architects and engineers.
All right, I'm going to go back to Councilmember Henderson. It was your motion. Is that all right?
Yes, sir, and if I may, so I will have my motion to be to defer one meeting with a referral to Budget and Finance, but if I may then add also a referral to Public Works.
Okay, so now the motion, everybody okay with that? Councilmember O'Connell's. So we have a motion to defer one meeting with a referral to Public Works and a referral to Budget and Finance. That's the motion. It's been properly seconded. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of that one meeting deferral with the referrals and the referral, say aye. Opposed, no. That motion is adopted. Thank you. Okay, so I believe that takes us through all matters on the resolution calendar. I believe we have a late filed resolution. I'm going to go to Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I do have a late filed resolution, and I have an explanation which I could read, but I will request a suspension of the rules in order to present this late filed resolution.
All right, and do I have a copy of the late filed resolution? Let's just make sure we know what we're voting on. It is actually in your packets. I think I've got, was this it? Okay. just so that people know what the late file resolution is. It's a resolution accepting a grant from the State of Tennessee Department of Finance Administration to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Nashville Career Advancement Center to serve youth and young adults with trauma. So Councilmember Withers has asked for the suspension of the rules since it was late filed. Any objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember Withers, you are on the resolution.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I didn't know if it'd be appropriate. This was considered by the Rules Committee, which did recommend approval of that. I don't know if our committee report's required from them.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes, it was approved 6-0.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Withers, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. If I could just read this brief explanation, which was provided by the department, just for everyone's edification.
All right, Councilmember Withers.
This is from Mr. Patrick Holmes, who's the Executive Director of the Nashville Career Advancement Center. He respectfully asks our consideration of the late filed resolution to accept a grant under the Federal Victim of Crime Act of 1984, also known as VOCA. This resolution could not be timely filed because the State Department of Finance and Administration did not finalize and transmit the contract to us until late last week after lengthy discussions beginning months ago. The reason we believe this falls into the council's emergency status for late filing is that it is imperative for the Nashville Career Advancement Center to begin the RFP process by the beginning of February. The state of Tennessee has committed an additional $2.2 million in this VOCA funds pending evidence of our ability to subcontract. This process cannot begin until this grant has been accepted and the funding transferred. In short, delay will push the entire process back a month and delay the further funding. It would be beneficial to complete this process now as the state of Tennessee is undergoing a transition. So with that, I would like to renew my motion to approve.
So I have a motion to approve the late filed resolution. It is properly seconded. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would just ask that Mr. Combs come back to the next budget meeting to discuss this more.
So the motion by Councilmember Withers is that this be passed tonight.
And it can be passed, but I'm just saying come back and discuss
okay.
it. I'm not saying defer it. I said that he come back and discuss it.
All right, so we can get that message, okay? So we are now on the resolution. This is by Councilmember Withers. It was properly seconded. Any questions, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you, Councilmember Withers. All right, so that completes bills, matters on resolutions. We are now on bills on first reading. If there is no objection, we'll consider all ordinance on the first reading and one vote at this time. Do I have a motion to approve? Properly motioned, properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Those bills on introduction and first reading are passed. We are now on bills on second reading. We are now on BL 2018-1363 by Council Members Wazo and Glover. Approved with conditions, disapproved without by the Planning Commission 4-2. Ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from RS10 to SP zoning on properties located at 940, 944 Curry Road and Curry Road unnumbered, approximately 530 feet northwest of Vincent Drive, 5.15 acres, to permit 24 multifamily residential units. Councilmember Wazo.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
I am going to go to Councilmember Bedney.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The committee reviewed this legislation. They wanted to ask Councilmember Wesso some questions, and they decided to defer for 2 meetings to be able to have to talk to her. So the committee recommended deferral for 2 meetings.
Automatic deferral. Oh, they have deferred. Okay. All right. Councilmember Wezo.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think that we have done everything we're supposed to do. However, because of some apparently misunderstanding, I'd like to defer this indefinitely so that we can get everything straightened out and any misunderstanding taken care of.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer indefinitely from the sponsor. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral indefinitely? Seeing none, all those in favor of the deferral indefinitely, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. That matter is deferred indefinitely. Thank you, Councilmember. BL 2018-1388 by Councilmember Murphy, Bedney, and O'Connell. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing sanitary sewer main and easements and to accept new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 3964 Woodlawn Drive. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Going to Councilmember Bedney.
Yes, the committee recommended per the request of the sponsor, to defer to the first meeting of March, 12-4-0 against.
First meeting in March. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Works also recommended deferral to the first meeting in March, 11 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. I am going to move to defer this to the first meeting in March. This is a developer who had told us that he would put in sidewalks and now has decided not to. So we are still in negotiations. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion to defer to the first meeting in March, properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That motion passes. BL 2018-1404 by Roten, O'Connell, and Mina Johnson. Ordinance amending section 6.80550 and section 12.08 1.150 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to remove certain storage and impound fees for recovered stolen vehicles. Councilmember Roten.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
All right, Councilmember Vercher, Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At the request of the sponsor, Budget and Finance recommended a deferral to March 5th, 11-4-0 against.
Okay. Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. We recommended deferral until the March 5th meeting, 11 in favor, 0 against.
And Councilmember Hager.
Traffic and parking, recommended deferral till March the 5th, 3-4-0 against.
All right, I assume March the 5th is the first meeting in March. Is that right? Okay. All right, back to you, Councilmember Roten.
This one needs a little more time, so I'd like to make a motion to move until the first meeting in March, which is March 5th, I understand.
That's right. All right, so we've got a motion to defer to the first meeting in March, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you, Councilmember Roten. BL 2018-1407 by Councilmembers O'Connell and Syracuse. Ordinance amending section 15.64.170B to clarify that all construction within the floodway must be consistent with the requirements of the Stormwater Management Manual. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. We considered this, I guess I'll ask for my own committee report.
All right, Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works Committee report.
Sure. We recommended 11 favor, 0 against, including the bill as amended, so I'm happy to actually move the amendment.
All right, so the committee report was 11-4-0 against as amended. Council member moves the amendment, properly second. Back to you, Councilmember O'Connell, for an explanation of the amendment.
Sure. The amendment was a housekeeping amendment, and the overall bill is itself an administration requested bill for some updates related to technical issues with floodways.
All right.
So I'd like to move the bill as amended.
All right, so let's get the amendment on.
Let's get the amendment, yes.
Let's get the amendment on
The
first.
amendment's moved.
Move the amendment, properly second. Any discussions on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. You are now back on your bill as amended.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval.
So move approval of the bill as amended, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt on second reading 2018-1407 now as amended. Substitute Bill 2018-1441 by Councilmember Elrod. Ordinance amending chapters 12.62 and 12.84 of Title 12 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding shared urban mobility devices. Councilmember Elrod.
Committee reports, please.
Got Public Safety, Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Safety, without the sponsor, we had no letter. We took no action.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. We basically, after some committee discussion, the committee recommended that we defer on second for one meeting, re-referring to the Public Works Committee on second reading.
Okay.
At
Thank
9
you.
in favor, 0 against.
All right. And then Traffic and Parking, Councilmember Hager.
Move to defer that, one meeting, 3-4-0 against.
All right. Councilmember Elrod.
My apologies to the Public Safety Committee. I was in the Public Works Committee. In conjunction with those recommendations, I move for one meeting deferral.
All right. So Councilmember Elrod moves to defer one meeting. Everything goes back to the respective committees anyway. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted on substitute 2018-1441, deferred one meeting. We're now on BL 2018-1442 as amended. This is Virtue, O'Connell, and Bedney, an ordinance approving the acquisition of interest in a parcel of real property from 4 parties and approving a participation agreement, a license agreement, and an easement agreement, all between the Metropolitan Government and Uptown Property Holdings, LLC, and in connection with the development of the Nashville Yards project in downtown Nashville. Councilmember Virtue.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 6-4, 5 against. I need committee reports.
All right. Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Bedney.
The Planning and Zoning Committee recommended approval, 10-4, 2 against.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. We recommended to re-refer to the Public Works, to move approval, re-referring to the Public Works Committee on third reading, 6 in favor, 1 against.
All right, so you moved for approval, but also re-referred it back. Is that what you did?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, back to you, Councilmember Virtue.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with re-referral back to all committees.
Okay, move for approval with a re-referral back to all committees. Do I have a second? Properly seconded. Councilmember Virtue, any discussion from you?
Just that it was discussed at length in Budget and Finance, and there are still some outstanding questions that need to be answered as it relates to this project. So I believe we can get those answered by the time we go, by the time it comes back to the respective committees.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. I know that we sometimes save these conversations for later, but I wanted to go ahead and make my statements tonight. On our desk, thanks to what I think Council Lady Henderson requested, is a list and a breakdown of the projects and things and infrastructure for this project. And so I asked Director Sturdivant in planning today if these projects, given all the projects in all of our districts dealing with signalization, side work, and utilities, if this kind of bumps up ahead of and jumps in front of the line. Ultimately, he did say yes. So these projects, because of this private development, will be going forward and will be completed before projects in our district. Yes, I understand that's because it's going through private development and won't have to jump through all the hurdles that we have. But at the end of the day, we were first told about the Amazon incentives for Metro and bringing Amazon here were going to be about $15 million. We were then told that the Amazon incentives would make the Nashville Yards development possible and that the resulting property tax from the Nashville Yards would make the Amazon incentives worthwhile. We're now seeing basically a separate incentive deal, this one taking the form of a direct payment to the Nashville Yard developers. This is another $15.25 million on top of the $15 million in Amazon incentives that we'll be discussing in a few weeks. So the math on this property tax revenue making it all worthwhile has now changed. The payment for this private development is basically doubled. We were told that without the Amazon incentive deal, Nashville Yards wouldn't happen. I'm pretty sure we will be told about this same $15.25 million participation agreement for taxpayers to build the infrastructure for a private development. Don't believe it. The Nashville Yards development, Uptown Property Holdings, have a deal of a lifetime here. They have Amazon, a massive long-term tenant. This developer doesn't need more of our taxpayer dollars. They've already hit the lottery, and we've bought their winning lottery ticket when we're going to give Amazon $15 million to come here. This participation agreement is not a prudent use of our city funds. Taxpayer dollars should be used on more pressing priorities in our districts, on the cost of living increases that our employees desperately deserve and have earned, teacher pay, and affordable housing, just to begin. So with that, I'm going to be voting against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to know how this, the new Equal Opportunity Bill will impact, if Mr. Jameson could speak to the contracts that will be happening as it relates to the city.
Mr. Jameson, or do you want to defer to the administration table?
I believe the application applies, but I would defer to the administration.
Mr. Wilshire.
Sure. So this is a participation agreement, which means that Metro will be reimbursing the developer for the work, that they will actually be completing the work. And as such, I defer to legal, but I believe the answer is the equal opportunity legislation would not apply to this because it's work being completed by a private developer. But I'm actually not 100% positive about that.
Okay, I just had a follow-up question. Since we would be using taxpayer dollars to reimburse them,
Yes.
it seems like it would still apply in some way and that they would be contracting it out.
Sure. So let me look into that. I mean, I think the equal opportunity legislation refers to how, sort of the procurement process, and they would not be going through the Metro procurement process. But let me look into that and get some information for you.
Okay.
Certainly.
And just to be clear, I'm talking about the specific parts that you talked about with the reimbursement, the sidewalks that we would be reimbursing them for, which would be the Metro participation.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hurd.
My question was answered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to follow up on Council Lady Kathleen Murphy's comments because she mentioned the memo that I requested from Public Works that is on colleagues' desk. And I just wanted to share that we had a robust discussion in both Public Works and in Budget and Finance, as Chair Lady Vercher spoke to. So colleagues and community members who have an interest and a concern in the way we structure these participation agreements, which I would assert are sometimes overly complex. I appreciate the level of detail, but I think we still have a little bit of work to do here on that. And so with that, I would just point folks, please, to YouTube, where you can find the discussion that we had in Public Works Committee and in Budget and Finance if you have questions or concerns about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just quickly, I guess I'd like to address the question of some asymmetric info that's out here. Is the district representative for the area of the project in question? I have been meeting with the project team for going on 2 years and reviewing infrastructure proposals and so forth. There was never a suggestion to me as a district council member that this was contingent upon anything related to Amazon. In fact, a lot of the infrastructure preparation work as well as the design was done before even the project team knew that Amazon was a possibility for the city of Nashville. I think the project team was as surprised as many of us were in the moments of the announcement. And I still consider this to be an independent infrastructure agreement for a development project that is not and should not be considered a part of the Amazon incentive package. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Bendy.
Yeah, this is a comment for Matt. If we have to modify the legislation to accommodate what Councilor Gilmore just mentioned, we can do that as well. So please make sure that they know that we expect them to honor the spirit of the law we just passed to make sure that there is diversity in contracting in the city. So we'll be paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Chair. And this is actually following up on Councilwoman Gilmore's comments that if we go back and look at Budget and Finance and Public Works, these were some of the things that came up. In terms of that project, if we could get Public Works to come back, if somebody's still here on it, and refer to not from just yesterday, but from the previous council meeting, those statements about how it came to pass, where we were going into this conversation about when this was decided in terms of this infrastructure, and where it was mentioned specifically that there was no initial intent to do this work at that time period, but they'd be happy to do it once this came along. But there was originally that statement made by Public Works and Stormwater.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hager.
I was at some of these meetings the other day, and I'm still digesting a lot of this information on this $15+ million. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I don't understand. The other day, there was a move to defer one meeting to get some of these questions answered. And one of the questions I had was when it was decided that we were going to spend $15 million of taxpayer money in disregard for raises to our Metro employees that we've been trying to get for the last year or two for those promises we made. Until I get more answers about this, I can't support it and digest all this information that's been thrown at me in the last 2 or 3 days. So I'm going to move for just a one-meeting deferral so we can get a lot of these questions answered that came up at the last meeting with Council Lady Henderson and some of the other people. Thank you.
All right, so let me tell you where we are. We had, it's a motion to approve by Councilmember Vercher with a re-referral back to all 3 committees. All right, so now I've got a motion to defer one meeting. It's been properly seconded, so we're now on the deferral motion. Anybody wish to speak on the deferral motion? Councilmember Scott Davis, you are in line. Do you want to speak on the deferral motion?
No, I'm fine. Council Lady Gilmore addressed my question that I have.
Okay, all right. So, Councilmember Elrod on the deferral motion?
Sure, why not? Excuse me. During the long Public Works Committee meeting, that hour and a half, I think it was, of course, not all of it was on this topic, but the representatives for the developer were more than willing to provide any information that we were requesting. That's why we asked for a re-referral for a 3rd reading. One thing, though, I want to make clear is that this is, Mr. James, this is capital money. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think if you're asking if it's an economic incentive, if it's amendable on 3rd.
No, I'm asking if, because of its capital money, which goes to build capital, that's indebted money. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that is not money that could go to teachers' raises. That is which is operating money. So I think that should be clear that while we do have obligations that we need to look for on the operating side, that this is separate from that. Now, of course, we pay for debt out of the operating budget. This would not be in the operating budget. So I want to make that clear. Second, I would be in favor of moving forward with it on 2nd reading. The representatives from the developer have been more than willing to talk through this. And I think this isn't a payment to the developer for them to build stuff just for them. It's to build infrastructure that will be used by the entire city, and also infrastructure that will be built that Metro would like to build or would have liked to have built at some point in the future, but because the entire part of that city, because it's not just a block, it's a very large part of downtown, is going to be under construction, that this is, as was said in the Public Works Committee, it's a good time to get in there to fix a lot of stuff. That in other parts of downtown, when it's building by building, you have to take it block by block, or excuse me, building by building to fix infrastructure such as stormwater, water lines, sidewalks, those kinds of things. So this isn't a payment to the developer that they're getting cash for. They're performing work for the city. So if a contractor is already putting in, something in one part of the development, then it makes sense for them to go ahead and to, go ahead and complete some of the work in a sense for some of the other work that's going on in that section. So I think that this is ready to be moved forward on second reading because they are going to be answering more questions on third reading. So I would oppose the deferral motion.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to support the deferral because, frankly, I think some good questions have been raised here on the floor. The money does come out of operation. To pay back the debt service, it does come out of operation. And if anybody saw the paper in the last day or so, the Nashville Business Journal, our debt service is increasing rather rapidly. And so it's taking away funds on our operational budget and commitments we should be able to make. The other nice thing about this is we just deferred a resolution tonight that was non-binding. This will be binding. This is real money. And so while it comes out of, quote, capital on the front side, on the back side, it does come out of our operational. So I don't think it's a bad idea to get some of these other questions answered. And if we need to have the amendment done for second reading when it gets re-referred back to the committees, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I wanted to acknowledge Councilman Hager and thank him for his deferral motion, but also to say that I appreciate colleagues allowing me the time in Budget and Finance and Public Works, and we have spent a fair amount of time on it. I have met with Public Works separately, spoken with Mr. Wilshire, and so while I do have remaining concerns, I think we are kind of peeling back the onion, so to speak. And because it is amendable on third, again, and we do have a motion with a re-referral, I would ask Councilman Hager if he would be friendly to, instead of a deferral, that we go ahead and pass this on second with the re-referral back to the committees because it is amendable on third, if he would please consider.
Councilmember Hager, I'm going to go back to you. Again, procedurally, what we have is a motion to defer that's been properly seconded, one meeting deferral.
I guess my question is, if I defer it, does it get referred back to the Planning Commission as well?
Planning Committee.
So are you talking about back to the Planning Committee?
Right, yeah, committee.
Okay, so the original motion from Councilmember Vercher was to go ahead and pass on second reading and then re-refer to Budget and Finance, Planning and Zoning, and Public Works. Correct, Councilmember Vercher? That's what the motion is.
Right.
For second.
And
okay.
then if my motion was defer it for one meeting,
that's right.
Would it still get re-referred back to those committees? That's my question.
He'll need to make that part of his motion because it's already been approved.
All right, so since it's already been approved by all those committees, you would need to make that a part of your motion to get them back there.
Then I'd make that part of my motion to defer and re-refer back to those committees.
All right, so now what we've got is a motion to defer one meeting with a re-referral back to all three committees, Budget and Finance, Planning and Zoning, and Public Works.
That's correct.
All right, properly seconded. All right, so that's now the motion in front of us is, again, let's make sure we're all clear. The original motion was from Councilmember Vercher. It was to go ahead and approve on second reading with a re-referral back to all three committees. Councilmember Hager now has a motion to defer one meeting with a re-referral back to all committees. Okay? So we're still on the deferral motion. It just added the re-referrals back. Councilmember Henderson, you are talking. Do you want anything else? Okay. So I'm now to Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If you didn't mind just quickly clarifying where we are.
I tried to explain that, but let me try it one more time. So what we've got, the original motion was from Councilmember Vercher to go ahead and pass this measure on second reading with a re-referral back to Budget and Finance, Planning, Zoning, and Historical, and Public Works. So it would all come back. The bill, as I understand, is amendable on third reading. Mr. Jameson, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that was the original motion. It was seconded, so that was what we were on. Councilmember Hager then moved to defer one meeting. That was then seconded, so then we were on discussion with that. Councilmember Henderson asked politely if Councilmember Hager would drop the deferral and just because everything was going to come back. Councilmember Hager decided to kind of amend his deferral motion and say, I still want to amend it, I still want to defer it one meeting, but refer it back to all three committees.
So
that's where we are.
So where we are is not passage on second, but re-referral back to second, okay?
So if you vote for Councilmember Hager's deferral motion, we don't vote on second reading tonight. They still go back to all the committees.
Okay.
Okay, so if you don't mind, let me make sure that we're clear with Councilmember O'Connell. You've got a point of order.
Yeah, this might be for Mr. Jameson. We've got a motion to approve on the floor, followed by a motion to second. How is the sequence there appropriate?
A deferral motion takes precedence.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, back to you, Councilmember Cooper.
Well, in this complex situation, I would like to support Councilman Hager's motion, but really I want to point out the material point that Council Lady Gilmore is making on this, that in all the discussion, it's only tonight that we're talking about the Equal Opportunity Act and how it applies to such a major area as participations. And it's clearly just passed, just signed into law. This is our first at bat, so to speak, once that has passed, and that's a serious subject for policy for this council. That, and that there have always been some process concerns about our process. This was not captioned in the CSP when it was passed, and so it's all been a little bit off kilter. And then finally, we do have a pretty important sidewalks concern that was surfaced in Public Works, that here we are reimbursing a developer for sidewalk money, and yet we're requiring other developers in the rest of the county to build sidewalks out of their own pocket. So with these kind of substantive questions, again, I want to thank Councilmember Hager for his motion, because again, I think measure twice and cut once. You know, you've got to be very careful about these things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Cooper. Back to Councilmember Haywood.
I think referring back to the committees and getting all the questions answered, one would be in support of this bill, because I had many, many questions, and after getting them answered, I just stand in support of it. But I think getting the questions answered, I think that's imperative.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Mendez.
Thank you. I guess with apologies to Councilman Cooper, I guess I would say that if we're going to measure twice and cut once, like measuring once could be tonight on second reading and measuring the second time could be on third reading, since it's amendable on third. We're at risk of measuring 7 or 8 times here. This is amendable on third reading. Third reading is 3 weeks from today if we pass it on second. The main thing that I want to I personally wish we wouldn't do is tying this to the employee raises. Some of the loudest voices saying we got to pay the employees, we got to pay the employees, voted against the easiest way to pay employees, which would have been to properly fund the government. When the problem with when we decided to not properly fund the government was that we left ourselves in exactly this position where we were going to basically effect a shutdown, which is what I sort of hear on some level we're trying to do here, or some people are interested in, as opposed to moving forward. We made our bed, we as a body made our bed about what the funding level was, and we'll get a chance to address it again here in a couple months. But in the meantime, this project should be judged on its merits. And I understand there's questions. It's been deferred once. Questions have been answered. There's more questions raised today. If we're going to measure twice and cut once, I think we got the avenue. Pass it tonight, it's amendable on third. This deal, no matter how many ways you slice it, comes down to there's $80 million worth of infrastructure, permanently green and open space being built in middle of downtown, connectivity between Church and Charlotte and Broadway in a way that doesn't exist now. And we're deciding whether it's worth a $15 million investment or not. And we can get a gazillion questions answered, but that's what the deal is going to come down to. I'd recommend that we not defer, pass it on third, and deal with it in 3 weeks on third. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilmember Pardue.
Call for the question on the deferral.
Okay, so the previous question has been called for on the deferral. We're just voting on whether we want to vote on the deferral. So all those in favor of the previous question on the deferral motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are voting on the deferral motion. Because of the discussion, Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you to open up the board. So here's what we're doing. We are voting on a motion to defer by Councilmember Hager. It's a motion to defer one meeting with a re-referral back to Budget and Finance, Planning and Zoning, and Public Works. So if you're for Councilmember Hager's motion to defer with the re-referrals, you vote aye. If you are against it and you don't want to defer, you vote no. Madam Clerk, if you will open up the machines for that vote. Madam Clerk, if you will close the machines and take the vote.
12 in favor, 22 against, 1 abstention.
Right, so the motion to defer fails. We are back on the bill. Anybody wishing to speak on the bill? Councilmember Bedney.
Yes, this is again a question to, or a request to Matt. I just voted on the deferral because I want to make sure that you have time to work with them to get a voluntary commitment to work on the diversity component that Council Lady Gilmore had requested. So I just want to emphasize that if we don't have that on third reading, then I will either vote again to defer or against it. So it's for me, that is, I think for many of us, it's important that when we make an investment as a city, that we all benefit from it, that there is equity. So thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want the body to be clear. We do have 3 weeks.
I'm sorry, hold on. Try it again. It got cut off.
Again, just want to be clear, we have 3 weeks to have our questions answered, to meet with respective parties before this comes back to the respective committees.
All right, and the last one in the queue is Councilmember Pardue. For what reason?
You know the reason. You waste mine and your time both. Let's either vote or go home.
All right, I think we're ready for the vote, Councilmember Pardue. All right, nobody else is in the queue, and nobody else is going to be in the queue, according to Councilmember Pardue. So we are on a motion to approve on second reading with a referral back to all those 3 committees. We are ready. I didn't see that, Councilmember Vercher. All right, so we are now voting on approval on second reading with a referral back. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. On the board? On the board. All right. So we're going to go on the board. Again, what we are voting on is Councilmember Vercher's motion to approve on second reading with a re-referral to Budget, Finance, Planning, Zoning, and Public Works. So, Madam Clerk, if you will open up the machines. Everybody there? Madam Clerk, close the machines, take the vote.
31 in favor, 3 against, 1 abstention.
The motion to pass on second reading with 3 referrals passes. Thank you. I also heard some singing in the front row. It wasn't very good. All right. We're now on BL 2019-1458 by Council Members Bedney and O'Connell. Ordinance authorizing Hickory Wood Senior Living LLC to install, construct, and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 0 Murfreesboro Pike. Council Member Bedney.
Committee reports.
Council Member O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are in one of my favorite times of every meeting. I'd love to give this report, and I'm just delighted to report that a full attendance at the Public Works Committee, recommended 11 and in favor, 0 against.
Back to Council Member Bedney. What you got?
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell, for the report. The Planning Committee also recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Right, you want to move to approve?
Yes, that's a
There
great
you
idea.
go.
I move to approve the legislation.
Motion to approve on second reading. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt on second reading. BL 2019-1459 by Bedney and O'Connell. Ordinance authorizing SPLLU Opus 29 LLC to install, construct, and maintain an underground encroachment in the right-of-way located at 331st Avenue North. Councilmember Bedney.
Yes, committee reports, please.
Councilmember O'Connell, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, it is my utter delight to note that the Public Works Committee recommended 11 favor, 0 against for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Bedney.
Yes, the Planning Committee also recommended 11-4, 0 against.
Okay, and you got a motion to approve?
Forgot to do that again.
All right, motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? We're on 1459. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2019-1472 by Bedney and Sledge. Ordinance to amend Section 2.210.020 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to require an appropriation of the Barnes Fund for Affordable Housing equal to future economic and community development incentive grant payments. Councilmember Bedney.
Yeah, thank you. Committee reports, please.
Going to go to Councilmember Mendez for ad hoc affordable housing.
We unfortunately did not have a quorum and didn't take action.
Okay, no action. All right, back to you, Councilmember Vercher, Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended disapproval, 7-4, 3 against, 1 not voting.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Withers.
The Personnel Committee, pardon me, let me find my report. I apologize for that delay.
That's right.
The Personnel Committee, at the request of the sponsor, recommended a 1-meeting deferral with a re-referral to our committee and other committees, 4 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bedney.
Yes. So when we create this legislation, and I never expected it to resonate so much with people, I have been getting lots of people calling me or texting me or emailing me, telling me how much sense it makes to them. So I was very excited to come to the committee and get feedback from the committee. I got some good feedback, but I realized that that gives me an opportunity to improve on the legislation. So I have decided to defer for 1 meeting and give us time to work on that. But I need your help, all of you, if you don't mind, and let Mike know if you have any suggestions or ideas that you would like to include in the legislation. This is a deliberative process, so we can always make things better until third reading. So please help me deal with this. At the core of this is the idea that Nashville really wants us to work on affordable housing, on dealing with the issue of gentrification and displacement, dealing with equity, and making sure that we are looking at the cost of incentives. So with that, I'm asking for a 1-meeting deferral.
All right, so there's a motion to defer 1 meeting, re-referral?
Yes, please.
Re-referral back to all the committees?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I got a motion to defer with a re-referral back to all committees, a deferral of 1 meeting. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. All right, we are on BL 2019-1473 by Council Members Pulley and Withers. An ordinance amending section 11.12.070 of the Metropolitan Code to exempt educational institutions from certain sound amplification standards. Councilmember Pulley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Freeman, Public Safety.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Safety looked at 2019-1473 and decided to approve. 4 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Pulley, back to you.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to defer one meeting with a brief explanation.
Okay, got a motion to defer one meeting, properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember.
Thank you. About a year and a half ago, I was made aware of the fact through a series of events that educational institutions, through events that they're using, that they're participating in, such as football games, soccer games, and things like this can be violating the noise ordinance. And so hence I pursued looking at some legislation to exempt them from that. So we don't want our schools to have to deal with noise ordinances when they're participating in regular activities. I do want to make clear that it doesn't apply to or doesn't impact the Live Nation contract that Vanderbilt Stadium is involved in. It has no impact on that whatsoever. But some concerns were brought to my attention by others, and I do want to move this one meeting to make an attempt to address those concerns while maintaining the integrity of what I'm trying to accomplish here. So with your indulgence, I'd like to move one meeting deferral.
All right, so I've got a motion to defer one meeting. It's been seconded. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to rise in support of the deferral. I appreciate what Councilmember Pulley is working to accomplish, and as a council member who has 2 educational institutions in my district, I'm well aware of the tension between being able to have regular athletic events, but also the usefulness of having some kind of amplification standards that apply. So I appreciate the opportunity to perhaps work on a decibel level or some hours of operation or something, just to continue to have some type of a framework that will keep us at the table working on making sure that it doesn't have a negative impact on the neighbors while still allowing schools to do things that are beneficial for students.
All right.
So I support that deferral.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Seeing nobody else in the queue, we're on a motion to defer one meeting. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. It is deferred one meeting. And we are now on BL 2019-1475 by Councilmember Hall. Ordinance amending sections 15.64.110 and 15.64.140 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the time period for which grading permits remain valid and the review of grading permits and drainage plans. Councilmember Hall.
Committee report, please.
Okay, Public Works, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the request of the sponsor, Public Works voted for a one meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Back to you, Councilmember Hall.
And with the report, I'd like to make a motion to defer one meeting, please.
Okay, so I got a motion to defer one meeting. It's been properly seconded. Councilmember Lee.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President. I would like a point of personal privilege when this one is finished, please.
Okay, all right. We are on a deferral motion of one meeting. Nobody else is in the queue. All those in favor of the deferral motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The motion to defer one meeting is passed. Councilmember Lee, for what purpose?
I'd like a point of personal privilege.
All right.
I would like to wish Happy Founders Day to the lovely, brilliant, dynamic ladies of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. All right. We are now on bills on third reading, and I'm turning the podium over to our Deputy Pro Tem. So there's the sheets.
There's the sheets. Thank you. We're now on bills on third reading. First up is BL 2018-1364. Councilmember Kendall, an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metro Code of Laws and Zoning Ordinance of the Metro Government of Davidson County by changing from SPR to RM20A zoning on properties located at 2805, 2807, 2809, and 2811 Delaware Avenue. Councilmember Kendall. Oops, forgot that piece. Sorry, Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Bedning.
The committee recommended approval, 12-4, against.
Thank you. Councilmember Kendall.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Let's see. Councilmember Lee, are you in the queue from earlier? You don't wish to speak on this? Okay, thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? We'll go to the board then. Yes, would you open the chair, the machine, please? Do you need me to specify that? Okay. Has everyone voted?
No, maybe.
Right. Can you close the machines?
18 in favor, 4 against, 3 abstentions.
Motion passes. I'm sorry, 18 yes, 4 no.
It needs 21 on third reading.
Pardon me, it needs 21 on third reading. Councilmember Glover?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here counting the numbers. Do we even have a quorum?
18-4. Some people present did not vote, but they are in the room. That gives us a quorum.
Yes,
Okay, well.
you can. 27.
Yeah, you have a quorum. It failed. Somebody could move to reconsider if they wanted. If they got 4 seconds, then they could go to.
Okay. Mr. Jamison, would you explain that? We have some options here, since I believe there's a little confusion. Mr. Jamison, would you explain our options here?
Councilman Rosenberg may be doing this.
Councilmember Rosenberg.
Would a proper motion be a motion to reconsider
It
so that
would.
we can maybe vote and ensure everybody votes for the machine?
That is a proper
And you
motion.
would
Would you like
ask
to
for
make that
3
motion?
seconds.
I'd like to make,
I believe we need, I need 4 seconds.
does it need to be somebody on the,
They're going to redo.
am I okay making that motion since
Were
I
you on the
voted in
affirmative
favor?
side?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. So we have a motion to reconsider. We need 4 seconds.
3 seconds.
We need 3 seconds. It has been amply seconded. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to explain what we're doing. There was a vote. It was not voted on by a large number of people. And there's some confusion that perhaps people were not fully paying attention. So there's been a motion to reconsider. All right. And there is one person in the queue for discussion. Mr. Jamison, can we have discussion before we vote again?
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember Scott Davis.
You already heard my motion, never mind, Chair.
I'm sorry.
It was a motion to reconsider.
Okay, so you're there. Any other discussion on this bill before we revote? Okay, we are voting for a second time because the number of votes was low, so I'm hopeful that there will not be 13 people not voting this time. Is everyone clear? This is on BL 2018-1364, Councilmember Kendall. All right, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk. Mr. Kendall, you have anything else to say before we vote? Okay.
All you're doing is voting whether to reconsider. If that's approved, this will go to third reading at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'm going to let Mr. Jamison say that again. Mr. Jamison. You have the mic. You should have the mic. Now you
This
do.
is simply the motion to reconsider. If approved, third reading will be taken up at the next council meeting for approval.
Is that clear? See, we are simply voting on the motion to reconsider, not on the bill itself. The bill will go to third reading if we approve the motion to reconsider. Is everyone clear on that? Do we need a machine vote for the motion to reconsider? All right, all those in favor? Councilmember Glover?
So I'd like to ask two questions, if I may, to make sure I understand where we are. All right.
Absolutely.
So question number one, can we move to suspend the rules and go ahead and vote on it tonight? That's the first question. The second question would be, if we move it to the next meeting, does it automatically come back to the committee, or are we just doing just third reading again?
Correct.
Okay, because I haven't seen this one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Scott Davis, do you wish to speak again? All right, I'm clearing from the who. Councilmember?
Well, I'm sorry, but since we have the machines open, we're not supposed to have debate, so will you instruct?
We're not supposed to have debate. You just have
Yes,
to
would
vote on
you
the motion to approve, just a voice vote. You don't
We're
need
just doing a
machine.
voice vote. Would you turn off the machine? I apologize for having that. Okay. So again, we are getting ready to vote on the motion to reconsider. There was a question about suspending the rules, but someone will need to make a motion to suspend the rules. But right now, there's a motion to reconsider that we're discussing. Councilmember Sledge has the microphone. If you'd like to speak, let me know by pushing your button. Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Actually, my questions are for Mike. Rule 35, I want to make sure that I'm understanding the motion to reconsider. So a vote was taken. While there were more votes in favor of than against, it did not meet the 21 vote threshold on third and final reading.
Correct.
Does that make it eligible for us to reconsider as it was considered an affirmative vote? Or since it was a motion that failed, or since it was a vote that failed, are we actually able to reconsider?
I believe so, as long as the motion is made by someone who made by a person who voted with the prevailing side, which would have been Councilman Rosenberg. He did vote in the affirmative. It was made before the next order of business. It was seconded by at least 4 and several more council members. If adopted, it then goes to the next council meeting.
Okay, so prevailing side in this case is the fact there was a plurality but not a majority, correct? I'm asking for my own edification, quite honestly.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
Right. Now, technically, once the motion is made and 4 people adopt it, that's it. We go to the next meeting. There's no machine open. There's no vote. And we have those seconds. This will go to third reading on not the special meeting, but February 5th, the next regular meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Consider that a point of order for me.
That
Thank
was
you.
Good questions. Thank you. Councilmember Hurt.
So, thank you, Madam President, but it's also the clarification, so the suspension of rules question basically is null and void.
Correct. There's no
Okay,
suspension
because
required.
right,
This comes back on third at the February 5th meeting with the motion having been seconded by 4.
Right. Okay. So that means that we cannot suspend the rules here tonight, correct?
Correct. It comes back on February 5th. That motion is already passed.
Right.
It passed about a second. So we don't have to
4
vote.
people, so you don't open.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion or need for clarification? Thank you. If I have understood Mr. Jameson correctly, by having the 3 seconds, we have now passed the motion to reconsider. This matter will come back up on third reading at the next regular meeting, and we are through with this matter. Is that correct?
Technically 4 seconds, but you had
4
more
seconds.
than
We have more than
several
4.
that.
Correct. Thank you. That being said, we are now on BL 2018-1403, sponsors Syracuse and Bedney, amends the Metro Code relative to underground facilities. Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Bedney. Is he back there? Okay, Councilmember Murphy, take it away.
Sorry. Planning, Zoning, and Historical voted to approve, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Syracuse.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. Councilmember Hurt, is your button left over from the last? Okay, excuse me. Okay. Seeing no one in the queue, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1413, sponsor Scott Davis, changes 0.33 acres from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 927 Douglas Avenue. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. I'd like to move for one meeting deferral, please.
Do we need committee reports first?
I apologize.
No problem. Councilmember Murphy or Bednay? Who's doing this? Councilmember Murphy.
The Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee moved, well, after a lot of discussion about this, and I guess I'll repress my button. We voted to approve 12 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
I'll just move for deferral. I thought I sent a letter, but no problem.
So you would like a one-meeting deferral?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a second? All those in favor of a one-meeting deferral? Is there? Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. In committee, there was a lot of discussion because, and committee members, please shake your head or something if I'm on the wrong bill. There was a lot of discussion about trying to get it to, because last meeting, the sponsor's intent, he had stated on the floor, was to have an amendment and things like that. And so we had asked if we could have it re-referred. And so I think that at this point, and speaking for the chair, as I'm somewhat that right now, I would like to re-refer, if this is being deferred, I would like to re-refer it to planning and zoning.
So the sponsor has moved for one meeting deferral. I think there's a friendly amendment to re-refer to committee. Is that correct? With the one meeting deferral.
I am fine, but as far as my knowledge, when you defer on 30, it automatically goes back to committees. Well, then I'm fine with it because we're deferring so that the substitute is ready.
Gotcha. So one meeting deferral and we referral back to the planning committee.
Thank you.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Bill is deferred and re-referred to planning and zoning. Next is BL 2018-1414. Sponsor is Hastings. Changes 2.7 acres from CL and R8 zoning to SP zoning for property located at 2210 and 2216 Buena Vista Pike and Buena Vista Pike unnumbered to permit a mixed-use development. Councilmember Hastings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Murphy.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical voted to approve, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Hastings.
Would like to move for approval.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1424. Sponsors O'Connell. Changes 4.63 acres from IR to IG zoning for property located at Lebanon Pike unnumbered, East Terminus of Freightliner Drive. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
I believe we need a committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do. I'd like to request committee reports, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy.
Not to be forgotten, we have the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee has voted to approve, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I had completely forgotten the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, which is especially embarrassing because I serve on it. I think the absence of the chair really threw me for a loop, and I do apologize. I'd like to renew my motion to approve.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1427. Sponsors Anthony Davis. Changes 1.51 acres from CL R10 and R6 to MULA zoning for properties located at 1600 Riverside Drive and 1600 Porter Road. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Committee report.
Councilmember
The Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee voted to approve, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I'll move approval.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1428. Sponsors Syracuse and Bednay. Changes 0.39 acres from OR 20 to MUL zoning for property located at 2554 Park Drive. Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Committee reports, please.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical voted to approve, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Move approval.
Been moved and seconded. Seeing no one in the queue for discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1429, sponsor is Elrod. Changes 2.05 acres from R8 to RM20A zoning for property located at 522 Paragon Mills Road. Councilmember Elrod.
Committee reports, please.
Planning,
Councilmember
Zoning,
Murphy.
and Historical voted 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Elrod.
Move approval, please.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1430. Sponsor is Cooper. What timing? Changes 0.57 acres from R6 to CSA zoning for properties located at 5012 and 5014 Kentucky Avenue, 1202 51st Avenue North, 1003 and 1003B 51st Avenue North, and 5100 Michigan Avenue. Councilmember Cooper.
Move for approval, Madam President.
Would you like a committee report?
Oh, well, aren't we approved?
No.
No.
Oh, then please, I would call for the committee
Happy to get
report.
one for you. Councilmember
Planning,
Murphy.
Zoning, and Historical, 11 in favor, 0 against for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Cooper.
Well, with that favorable committee report, I move for approval.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no one in the queue, all those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1431. Sponsor is Swope. Changes 13.4 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 5960 Edmondson Pike and Edmondson Pike unnumbered to permit 38 single-family residential lots. I understand that we are deferring this by rule.
Correct.
Is there any other discussion on that?
The sponsor's presence is required, and we do not have a committee report.
Okay, so we will defer that by rule, nothing to vote on. Next is BL 2018-1432, sponsor Sledge, changes 0.13 acres from R6 to OR20 zoning for property located at 49 Wharf Avenue. Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Murphy.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical, 11 in favor, 0 against for approval.
Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you. I move approval.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1433, sponsors O'Connell. Changes 0.14 acres from MUN to MULA zoning for property located at 1239 6th Avenue North. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. Request committee reports, please.
Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. Planning, Zoning, and Historical approved 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval, please.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1434. Sponsor is Kendall. Changes 0.2 acres from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 1523 14th Avenue North. Councilmember Kendall.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Just trying to make sure there's 21 people here.
I'm sure there are.
In case there's a machine
There are
vote.
ladies over here counting.
Committee report, please.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Kendall.
Move approval.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1435, sponsors Hastings. Changes 1.65 acres from SPR to RM15 zoning for various properties located on 9th Avenue North. Councilmember Hastings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Murphy.
Unfortunately, we became unmemorable again, and we lost quorum, and so we deferred by rule.
Deferred by rule. Councilmember Johnson, you don't wish to speak anymore? Okay. Defer by rule. Is this going to be a pattern? We'll take it up next week, next meeting. Mr. Jameson, are there options?
There's no committee recommendation is required, so without suspension of the rules, I
On
would
the
defer.
third. Thank you very much.
Next is, next is BL 2018. That's why it's important to stick around for community meetings if you can. BL 2018-1436, sponsor is Lee. Approved with conditions, disapproved without. Changes 14.5 acres from AR to A to SP zoning for properties located at 1339 and 3947 Pinhook Road to permit 43 single-family lots. Councilmember Lee.
Move approval.
We need committee reports.
Please. May I have
Councilmember
committee
Murphy.
reports?
We lost quorum, and so we have no recommendation and defer by rule.
Defer by rule.
Well, I would like to move approval.
She would need to suspend the rules.
You will need
Or-
to suspend the rules
Okay,
to do
so-
that.
Okay, because it's referred?
Because there,
Deferred? Okay, so then I will move to defer this then.
you can do
Is
that
that
also.
in order?
That is in order.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next is BL 2018-1437. Sponsor is Kendall. Changes 0.17 acres from RS5 to MULA zoning for property located at 701 Lena Street. Councilmember Kendall. Gone.
I'm going to move that to the heel.
We will move that to the heel. Someone will help me remember that. Next is BL 2018-1438. Sponsor is Swope. This one is deferred by rule. The sponsor is not here. Next is BL 2018-1440. Sponsor is O'Connell. Amends the Metro Code pertaining to dance permits and permitted hours of beer sales and delivery. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no one in the queue, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1443. Sponsors Withers and O'Connell. Approves a license agreement between Metro Government and Verizon Wireless to install in-building radio distribution devices within the Richard Fulton Main Office Building and the Howard Office Building to enhance wireless reception. Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. With all committee reports being in, I request approval.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1444. Sponsors O'Connell and Bedney. Adopts a geographic information system street and alley centerline layer with the recordation of renaming, additions, and deletions of acceptances and abandonments as the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance record for Metro government. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1445. Sponsors Glover, O'Connell, and Bedney. Abandons existing sanitary sewer main and easement and to accept new sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 5502 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Glover.
All committee reports are in. Move approval.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1446. Sponsors Elrod, O'Connell, and Bedney. Authorizes Metro government to accept permanent and temporary easements for the Blackman Road Stormwater Improvement Project for 4 properties located on Blackman Road and Overcrest Drive. Councilmember Elrod. Councilmember Elrod. Thank you. We are on 1446.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1447. Sponsors Swope, O'Connell, and Bedney. Abandons existing sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements, and to accept new sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, water mains, fire hydrants, and easements for property located at 1203 Pineview Lane. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1448. Sponsors O'Connell and Bedney. Abandons existing sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements, and to accept new water and sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, a fire hydrant, and easements for property located at 1430 Bell Road. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. It's really my pleasure to kick off this unprecedented series of bills that represent a partnership with Councilman Bedney, the likes of which this body has never seen. I'd like to start that with a motion to approve.
We'll finish it with that, too. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1449. Sponsors O'Connell and Bedney, yet again. Authorizes Broadstone Stockyard Flats LLC to install, construct, and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 901 2nd Avenue North. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. Would like to move to approve.
There is discussion. Councilmember Rosenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask the sponsor, does any part of this aerial encroachment shake or wiggle?
Not yet, Councilman, but if you'd like to file an amendment, we could see what's possible.
It is on third reading. Do we need?
Oh, yeah. We could file it on the floor. If you'd like to make a text amendment on the floor, we could suspend the rules.
Seeing no amendments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1450, sponsors O'Connell and Bedney, abandons alley number 120 right-of-way and easement. I'm scared to do this. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Next is BL 2018-1451, sponsors O'Connell, Bedney, abandons a portion of alley number 938 right-of-way and easement. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. As a sign of the strength of our partnership, I'd actually like to yield my time to Councilman Bedney to see if he'd like to move approval on this one.
Councilmember Bedney.
I would like to move for approval.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded and confirmed by everyone. All those in favor? Councilmember Vercher, do you wish to speak on this enlightening bill?
Before, I want to seek recognition before we adjourn.
Okay, we have one more bill to go back and circle to, and then I will recognize you. 1451, all those in favor, we have approved. Bill is recommended. We are going back to BL 2018-1437, sponsor is Kendall. Changes 0.17 acres from RS5 to MULA zoning for property located at 701 Lena Street. Councilmember Kendall. Oops, wait a minute. There you are. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I'm sorry you had to put me at the Hill. I was
That's
out.
okay.
I was out in the hall recruiting people back into the chamber. Anyway, could I have a committee report?
Councilmember Murphy.
Planning, zoning, and historical voted to approve. No, we did not. Nope, we voted to approve. 11 in favor, 0 against.
Move approval.
I'm the one with the committee.
What a change of mind.
It's been moved and seconded. I will ask, this is after the other two where the quorum was lost, so perhaps if someone can explain where we were good. Excellent. All right, just wanted to clarify that. Councilmember Scott Davis, do you wish to speak?
No, I had a point, and I'll go before or after Councilor Vercher, whatever
Okay.
she chooses. Point of personal
Sounds good.
privilege afterwards.
Very good. Okay, so we are on BL 2018-1437, which has been approved, moved, and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Bill is recommended. I will now recognize Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you. I'd just like to wish my grandmother, Rhoda Johnson, a happy 101 birthday. She's a voting constituent in Steve Glover's district.
Awesome.
And that is it. Thank you.
That's pretty amazing. Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to remind the body that their CIB scoring sheets are due to the Metro Council office no later than 4:30 p.m. on January 15th. And also want to remind the body that the work is ongoing as it relates to the Blue Ribbon Commission. There is a suggestion box if you can share that link with your constituents. That commission meets the second and fourth Fridays at 11 a.m. And thank you for the recognition.
Certainly. And now, before we adjourn, I need to call on Councilmember Lee to move to adjourn to a special council committee meeting to Tuesday, January 22nd. Councilmember Lee.
Sounds like you just did that.
Well.
So I guess I will ask to move, please.
So we are moving to January 22nd, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Vercher.
Before we adjourn, just want to, I said it's January 25th.
January 25th is when CIB is due.
The score sheets to
Score
Metro
sheets
Council
are due.
office no later than 4:30 p.m.
All right, and we will see everyone. Committee interviews begin tomorrow at 5:30 in committee rooms 1, 2, 3, and 4. So do your homework tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. And on January 22nd, we're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.